28th of March 2022. I'm doing the next poem. I feel like we are touching on something here. So let's give it another go, a random choice, so that we can really start the week on a high. Not we've been on the low, you know what I mean? Have you been on the low? But as I promised, we're starting from the deep end. We jump in and see what we can get hold of. So this is take 2 of another read, randomly picked as well. And yep, that was about corruption, the rich to fight corruption. Now we can, let me see, because that really keeps you on the tenterhooks of but of course I'm keeping tabs on whichever poem, and Victor is also doing that. I saw he's following up on so once we get to I think about 10 poems of read out, you know, we shall be, because this is like last week we did 4, 5, this week we do 4, 5, 6. So we are getting there, you know. It's a slow process as well as a learning process. I've seen one here, and let's see. Let us see how we can attack it. That's on page 127, guys. We are good. As ever, the ringside. We stood and watched in awe. The page is 127, titled Sacred Nation. That's the poem. An endless sea of exuberant faces, with a Bible in your raised right arm. You took oath of office before Justice Sir Peter Allen on the steps of the parliamentary building, addressing the swaying, surging crowd. This is not a mere change of guards, but a fundamental change, you said. You see what I mean? You see, quote unquote, from what I lamented about in the previous poem. Coming at 1986, the statement was emphatically, quote unquote, a fundamental change. And that's what Victor is saying here as well. You said Uganda's problem is leaders who want to overstay in power. You said the shootings stopped too, with a ragtag disciplined army by your side. The civil servants' houses in Kololo were occupied by your officials. Barter trade you preached. As you exchanged coffee for Nissan laurels, you devalued the currency. And everyone surrendered their 30% to you. Life continued as normal. After all, you were the liberators and you could think for us all. Privatization you preached as essential government entities were placed in private hands for profit. This should have been a warning to things to come, but we were all entranced by your charisma. In one go, we've gone through this poem. This sounds more like a manifesto. So in 86, when the new government comes in place, quote unquote, did they promise too much? You know, let's be honest here, man. The world has changed. 1986, what was going on? We had so much, because being in a crossfire of things, sometimes it makes things be swept under the carpet. That's what I would say. How would they justify devaluing a national currency by 30%? Sounds like the country was paying a price, paying back the price for their freedom, liberation. Let's go back to the poem. To liberate the country and the liberators, are they sacrificing themselves for the sake of the rest? And can they live up to that? Have they, if we hold them to account? You think about it as I drink some water here. Yeah. Oh man. Right. Yeah, good. Oh, sorry. So, hello doggy. See, what is interesting here is, personally, my understanding would be, let's go to 126 page again, because we need to get tough on these poems now and dig deep into them. Sacred nation, we stood and watched in awe. That was where people so subdued to the point that as they watched the president being sworn in, was he like, it looks to me like he was a Messiah, Savior, coming in to enforce, the fundamental change here. All right, buddy, how are you, sir?
Not bad.
Good. New week, same old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have a nice one. Yeah, all right. Yeah, good. So, let's go back. Sorry about that, guys. I told you, those are my friends, So as the people watched at the parliament, taking the oath, addressing the swaying and surging crowd, this is painting the whole situation as it was, filled with the hysteria that things were getting, a new dawn was coming, a new way of things was coming, expectations were high, and from my knowledge, this could be explained as there's what they call a shock doctrine. That's in politics. Shock and awe. That from all that, the expectations were sky high. So was the president over-promising? The conversation continues. By the way, what is a fundamental change? What is a fundamental change? Ask it. Ask me that question. Is it a marriage of convenience? Because you're swearing an allegiance. And the people give you the mandate. But the question is, having led the civil war, I would quote unquote say that, but did it mean that it's justified by default leadership? You know what I mean? Let's get tough here. These are things that are missing. Swearing in somebody, had he been elected? Who want to overstay in power, you said. The shooting stopped too with a ragtag disciplined army by your side. The civil servants' houses in Kololo were occupied by your officials. So it was grab the bounty, loot. So because I would understand Kololo to be a residence, a plush residential area. And if they've come in ragtag, why are they going for Kololo? You know what I mean? I would think the latter would be to protect the vested interests of a certain class of people who were like the well-to-dos. So if I was a civil servant in the previous regime, was I welcome to partake in the fundamental change? So was the fundamental change of guard stripping the old guard? The conversation continues. You see, let's get tough here, let's get real. This is barter trade you preached. As you exchanged coffee for Nissan Rails, you devalued the currency and everyone surrendered their 30% to you. Life continued as normal. So that means nothing had changed. What were they paying for? Is it something that everybody consented to? The conversation continues. You see, I want you to be on the ring side with me, you know, as I think through what I'm saying. That's page 127, people. After all, you were the liberators and could think for us all. Privatization you preached. What was privatization? It came hand in hand with the retrenchment. And that could have meant that the implementation of the structural adjustment programs, that's liberalization of the economy, so on, quote unquote, it was called. And Victor goes on to say in the second last line, this should have been a warning for things to come. The conversation continues.